recording this section. Got it. Okay, great. I am Nancy Decken, the CEO and founder of Discover Sooner. Let's see. And it is our goal in this life to connect aspiring songwriters with music industry professional, enabling all songwriters to advance their careers. Thank you very much. Before we get started, I want to thank a few sponsors of Discover Sooner. We got Chuck Gallen Floyd, who's in entertainment law, Dave Lenahan, who has Songwriters Connection. So if anybody wants to be on the podcast when you're a serious songwriter, send me an email after this and we'd be happy to put you in touch with him. And Shure Microphone, because they have given me a microphone to be using live and in person. That's great. And Amy Scruggs. And so let me tell you a few things that are up over here at Discover Sooner. I'm going to share my screen, and showing is better than telling any day of the week. Let's go right here. Here we go. Okay. Discover Sooner, right? This is my company, and we are having a thing called the Sync Challenge, which is, I need to move this whole thing up. Here we go. Can you guys see this?
No, well, you can see your notes. There you go.
There we go. Are we good now?
There
okay,
we go.
Discover Sooner. We got a couple of, here's our events. We always have stuff going on. Lots of times they're free. Some of them are not exactly free, but that's where you find them, on events. And we have the Sync Challenge. This is a picture of us at the Sync Challenge. We put you in teams and you write a song, and this is a pretty amazing thing to do. It's maybe our 4th Sync Challenge is coming up. And Amy Scruggs, hi Amy, say hi.
Hello everybody.
I'm going to pin you to the top. Amy Scruggs Media is going to sponsor a grant. So we're going to pick one person out of this group to get to discover the Sync Challenge for free, right, you guys? Here we go.
Here we go.
All righty. So we just thought we'd have Amy come on and say hello, Amy. Amy is a media coach. She does marketing and brand management. And so and we're going to give away, let's see, there's going to be 3 finalists and 1 grant winner, and all the applicants who apply are going to get a 1-hour group meeting with Amy. And I can tell you, I have had that 1 hour with Amy, and it's amazing. She helped me write a much better bio, and we talked about my career, and
it was already fabulous.
and it just changed everything for me. So go check out the Sync Challenge, and when you come down
Nancy,
here,
I'm glad you brought that up too, because everyone who applies is going to be joining me in a live interactive 1-hour workshop on branding, marketing, and really crafting your message. So this isn't just for the winners. The winners are going to get their own special personal time with me. The number 1 winner is going to be getting that grant to attend this incredible Sync Challenge, but everyone who applies is going to be invited to a special time with me, and I'm really looking forward to it.
So exciting, just so exciting. And then when we write songs, we're going to be writing them. And this group of people right here, Donna is a music supervisor. Brian is going to speak producer to producer and help all the producers bring their tracks up. Martina Webster right here, she is the Movies producer. And she loves getting songs through the Sync Challenge because I do what they call clearing the songs, and we are going to learn a lot about that later, right, Bill? Right. And so it's a lot. It's really kind of complicated when you want to write songs for TV and film, and you want to get music supervisors who will receive your songs. So we're going to go over all that stuff right about now, right? Ready to go? Thank you, Amy, for dropping in.
Thank you. Have a great time, everybody, and can't wait to see all of you at the Sync Challenge.
Thanks so much.
I am completely done now. I thank you so much. Oh, it's been 5 minutes. Enough. Without further ado, Bill O'Hanlon, I want to introduce you. He has written 40 books. He was once on Oprah. He's a phenomenal songwriter. And he has many, many, many songs in various catalogs out there. And he's making money as a songwriter in Sync. And it's my pleasure to have been befriended by Bill O'Hanlon. And Bill, we just sat a while ago and said, hey, let's do something and let's just take people from the very beginning and what to do, how to write a Sync song. And the proof is in the pudding. There's about 78 people signed up for this today. So we're excited. Bill, take it away.
All right, well, I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but I just want to say there's a few people on here who know as much or more than Nancy and I do about this. Phil Mason's on here, who's a really accomplished Sync writer and producer, and Donna, who's going to...
Donna, music supervisor for the Sync Challenge. Thank you so much.
So, yeah, we're doing this for people to make sure that when you join things like the Sync Challenge or when you get an opportunity, that you are in the ballpark at least, and you know what to do. It's taken us a while to learn this. I was used to writing singer-songwriter stuff and then country stuff. And there's a whole different set of things that are going on here. So I'm going to share my screen because I got some slides. You will be getting a copy of these slides. If you've signed up for this, you'll be getting a copy of the slides afterwards as a PDF. It won't be the actual slides. It'll be a PDF printout of the slides. So you don't have to take notes if you don't want to. And we'll be recording this so that there can be a replay as well. So some people couldn't be on at this time as usual. And so let me share my screen, and I'm just going to go through these slides, and every once in a while I'm going to ask Nancy to jump in and explain something, and she's going to just co-host and co-teach with me here. So screen, I don't think I need to worry about the sound, but I'm going to do that anyway.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. To my desktop. And I'm going to share this. Now you're going to have to tell me, can you see that yet?
We definitely can see it. We can see, on the left-hand side, we're seeing the thumbnails, and in the center, we're seeing the slide.
Yeah, good. Okay. Let me move it down a little because I got to start to play it. All right. You can see that, I assume.
Yes.
All right, great. And you can
everybody good? Because thumbs up if you can see it. Yeah, I see a few people.
All right.
Thumbs up.
And if everyone would mute themselves, or Nancy, you can go in and mute all. And I think that mutes everyone but the two of us.
Okay. Let me see. We're a little slow on the uptake here. Mute all, and I'll undo me.
All right.
It looks like, yeah.
Good. I don't know why it's jumping around, but we're calling this the 7 elements of successful sync writing, and that's writing songs for TV, movies, ads, video games, and a few other things, but mostly that's it. And we wanted to talk about what sync is, just so everybody's on the same page. It's pretty elementary, but it's short for synchronization, and that's matching music to visuals or video, and it's paid thing almost always. Sometimes there's free things, but mostly. Some people spell it with an H, but we usually spell it just SYNC. And there are licensing fees available for your songs in sync: TV, movies, commercials, adverts, promos, trailers, video games. And some people make a full-time living doing sync licensing for their music. And so I've made money, but I'm not making a full-time living at it yet. So Nancy and I were talking about this because for me, it was a big challenge to move from writing for country, which was one specific thing, where I used demos and where the lyrics were usually not right for sync, and the production wasn't right for sync. And so Nancy and I were talking about this, and we're, hey, we should tell people about what it takes to do this and write for sync. So we came up with our little title, which is the 7 essential elements for writing successful sync songs. So Nancy, how about if you take this next bit, the players in the sync game?
Okay, well, we have music supervisors, and the music supervisors they work for the director and the producer of the movie. And they are the person that's in charge of putting songs and, getting the music together. It's usually very song-based. Sync agents are the people who will they're like publishers. They have songs and they know how to get it's called clearing the song. They know how to get all the songwriters and all the publishers all lined up, signing papers that say, yes, you can put this song into movies. And that's one of the things is a lot of times, instead of calling people a publisher just to make sure that people understood they were in TV and film, they gave them the name a sync agent.
And we have a music supervisor on here. So we mentioned Donna Bukovic is on here, and Nancy Deckhand is on here, and she's a sync agent. So you have an example of both of those right here with us today.
Well, and very much so, a sync agent is going to work very hard to try to, they tend to sign songs and try to get those songs to music supervisors.
And they're the ones who have the relationships with music supervisors or the people who are putting out briefs to find the sync songs. And why would you use them? Because like publishers, they're going to take a chunk of your profits. You would use them because you don't have the time or the personality sometimes to develop those relationships with music supervisors, to get live briefs, to find out who's looking for songs, and to develop a trusting relationship with those music supervisors so they know you're not going to bring them songs that aren't right, and you're not going to bring them songs that can't be cleared. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Okay.
And you should work with a sync agent when you can find someone willing to work with you, because usually music supervisors know the industry. If you're an independent artist and songwriter, you might not know, like a lot of times the horror story for a music supervisor is that, hey, they got that song all picked out, and at the last minute the songwriter says, wait a minute, there's another writer on this song or we didn't tell you about, and they have to go back and get that other songwriter to agree to these terms, and it's a mess. They don't like to have to deal with it, but they know a sync agent knows what needs to be done, and that's why they like working with them. And usually the sync agent is going to take a fee, a commission on that, but they're worth it because they're going to get more opportunities for you.
Okay. Right. And they'll know what's a good contract, and also they'll know what the market will bear. So sometimes they'll negotiate a better fee than you could have done it on your own, because you have no idea what that song is worth.
And people call me all the time and ask me, should I sign this or shouldn't I sign this? And, it's kind of complicated, and it depends on all the terms that people put in there. And so there's a lot to know. There's just a ton to know. Okay, let's go on to music libraries. Music libraries are there's this place called Jingle Punks or Crucible, right? And you can send your song in, and they'll let you know if they want to put your song into their library. And then The Voice. I have a friend who puts all kinds of songs in Jingle Punks, and those songs play on The Voice all the time. You know what I mean, right? They play in different shows. Okay, ad agencies. Ad agencies are the ones who go and they license Sting. These very big songs, big pop songs, and sometimes not big pop songs for in a commercial. And then online sync pitch services like Taxi, MDIIO, Sync Community, Tracks and Fields, Music Gorilla. These are all kinds of places that will try to get a whole bunch of songwriters sending them songs for, and they will work very much so to get briefs and opportunities that come from music supervisors to try to get your music in. It's always a good thing if you can work with some of these folks, as well as Songtradr is also one of those. And
Yeah,
so
there's many more than the ones we've listed here, and they're almost always fee-based. You have to pay some subscription fee to get access. And actually, Nancy has a service that I'm part of where I pitch songs once a month with Sharon Clark, and for sync stuff and sometimes for country stuff. So you usually have to pay to get access to that stuff, and they'll have live briefs. They'll have briefs that are due in a day, a week, something like that. Pretty quick, usually pretty quick turnaround. And we'll talk about that as we go along.
yeah, sounds good. Awesome,
right.
Bill.
Here we go. So when I was writing country and I moved into writing sync, actually the first song that got licensed for me happened to be a country song, but that's pretty rare. They usually are not going to use country songs in some of your country writers, because country songs, what's great about country songs typically is they tell a story with characters in a setting. And typically, when you're going to license something for a visual, they're already telling their story. They don't want to have your story on top of their story. So usually what I had to do was to learn to write non-specifically, because I had learned to write very specifically for country with very detailed sensory-based kind of imagery in it. I think of a song that was a country song a while ago. She was sitting cross-legged on a Fairlane Ford, filing down her nails with an emery board. Now, that's a really cool lyric, but not if there's a Chevy Corvette in the movie or the TV show or the commercial. It's not going to work. If there's nobody sitting on the hood, filing down her nails with an emery board. That's just going to conflict with whatever they've got on the screen.
Just some ice cream, I guess.
Can you mute everybody, Nancy? Bill,
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna mute.
Talking here.
Yeah. I'm gonna mute all. Let's unmute ourselves there. Mute all. Okay, Bill, unmute yourself. Bill, unmute.
Sorry, I had to stop my screen sharing to do it.
Okay.
Let me share again. Let me just put it up again. Okay, so you can use imagery as long as it's more metaphorical imagery and won't interfere with the story being told on the screen. Like, I feel like I've fallen into a deep well and I can't get out. Now, they know that doesn't mean that you're really in a deep well. It means metaphorically you've fallen into a deep well, or you put up a wall between us and I can't get to you. Those are metaphorical images that usually won't interfere with the story. Now, sometimes it will, obviously, but that is a key element to writing sync songs. And some of you do this naturally. You just use natural metaphors that aren't specific to time and place and character. And so if you're doing that already, stick with that for sync. If you're going to write country, you're going to have to learn something different. And for other types of genres, you probably will have to learn something different. The other thing is, sometimes in modern music, like especially hip hop, there's a lot of words and they come really fast. Modern country has that hip hop kind of vibe to it too. So you get a lot of, really, really fast lyrics. Typically in sync, they'll want more space in your lyrics, more space between lines, sometimes more space between words, or at least some sections that will have more space. Because, of course, sometimes they want to just drop the music down and have dialogue over that. And if you have your lyrics going over that, it's going to be a little challenging for them to do that because there'll be words underneath But if you have something and you have different sections that don't have so much lyric or aren't so busy, that's going to be really good for the sync thing. So we want to create vibrant, video-friendly lyrics. And one of the other ways to do that, some of you, who listen to old jazz know they called this scat. People like Ella Fitzgerald learned to emulate the instruments because she couldn't play one. She would emulate the horns, or she would emulate the saxophone and go ba-da-da ba 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 ba-da-da ba ba ba-da-da beep ba ba-doo-da scat da 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 da. That's called scat. And there's another kind of non-lyric technique. It's called vocalese. It's like oh, or I'm sitting in a la waiting for my ya. And the do, the da is all I have to, that's all called vocalese. That is, they're nonsense syllables. It's a little different from scat because you're not trying to do a lead to emulate an instrument. You're just doing lyrics that are non-specific and they don't really mean anything most of the time. It's a or ah or e or o or do or doobie doo, that kind of stuff. All right. But like with all music, you're trying to communicate and evoke emotion. So you can't go super vague. I'm telling you to go a little vague, and non-specific, but not super vague, because then nobody will get the emotion of the song. I mean, partly the music carries the emotion, but partly the words will carry the emotion as well. All right. Nancy, you want to take the next one?
Okay. Productions that pop. They need to have short intros, builds, breakdown sections, stops and starts for cutting. Oh, Lord. Hard button endings, no fade. Okay, Bill, I know exactly what this is, but I'm not sure I need to.
No, let me clarify. So
right.
there should be a lot of edit points because they're probably not going to use your whole song. Unlike on the radio, or if an artist does your song, they're going to use my first song that was licensed. They used 5 seconds of my chorus and they repeated it 4 times. They paid me $1,000 for that, so that was okay with me. They should have used the whole chorus. I thought it was a cool chorus, but that's not what they needed. They just needed 20 to 25 seconds of music. And it was the first few lines of my chorus. Dreams come true. And then it goes on to some other cool stuff. That they didn't care about that. As soon as it stopped, dreams come true, and I took a breath, boom, that was an edit point. So there, you want to have as many spaces as you can and sections as you can so that they can edit. Typically, they want a hard ending. They don't want any fades. And that's true in most music these days that's on the radio. But it used to be years ago, there were lots of songs that they'd play on the radio and they would fade and the disc jockey would talk over the end. That typically doesn't happen anymore. And it typically isn't required and they don't want it for sync. The other difference, and Nancy knows this really well, because a lot of people in country are used to making home demos or they're getting professionally done demos, but that won't make it for sync. Why not, Nancy?
Well, it just needs to come up a full level. When you have a great producer, he's going to put hours into the mix and hours into mastering it and all of that stuff. And so it sounds more complete. And that's the only way we can really say it. We have these demos which get the idea across, but it needs to be at a broadcast level where you go, wow, I can hear that on the radio, and impeccably mastered, mixed and mastered. So, this just takes a lot more time and it takes more money.
And, sometimes people will pitch their song and say, I think this song would be great for sync. And then they'll play a demo and the sync agent or the supervisor will say, maybe, I don't know. I have to hear the final version before I can decide, because
Right.
it could have a lot of possibilities, but they need to hear that final version before they make a decision. And they also are usually in such a hurry. They don't have time to wait for you to get it radio ready or get it mixed and mastered. That's probably going to take too long.
And I would like to say, like, the music supervisors I know are incredibly savvy in terms of audio tracks. I mean, like they can seem to speak fluently about the hi-hat or the kick or the or the pads in the back. And I'm like, oh my God, it sounds like they're the pickiest people in the world. But they are, and they know, like, they listen to thousands of songs a month. And so they really understand what's going on. And if you're trying to pass something off, you're not getting it through. It just has to be great.
Well, what
So,
about samples, Nancy? What's the general principle for samples?
well, these samples, the ones that we're talking about, are not necessarily the tracks that you might, if you're mixing in Logic, they have some drums, and they have some keyboards and things like that for you to use. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about, you know, putting a piece of kung fu fighting into your song, and built, you, like the hip hop people have, really started to doing in earnest. And so they don't want any of that, because then they have to clear the songs from all the original people who wrote that little snippet that you might be borrowing. And there are certain places out there, I've heard, like Splice. You have to be very careful. I think that places where producers go and get song tracks to use are often on the list of no-nos. So you just have to be very, very, very careful. And our recommendation is that you make your own samples. Have your producer make your own samples. A lot of times they'll do vocalize over some part, and they'll go, yeah, yeah, and put that in your song. But don't use anyone else's, because then you have the burden of having to clear the song, and no music supervisor wants to do that. And so they're just not even playing at that level or have those contacts. So just don't use them.
So if you haven't created it and you do not own, you haven't licensed the final use of that, and it's not, and also it's not recognizable. Like, as Nancy said, drum samples, people usually don't care about, it's just basic drums. If you're playing a sample on your keyboard, and you know how to do that, there are various things like that. If you've downloaded a sample from Splice, which is a sample membership site, if you change the key, if you change the BPM, if you change the sound, if you put different filters on it, so it's not gonna, those music supervisors aren't gonna hear 50 people come in with the same exact sound, then you might be okay. You just have to check with that music supervisor or your sync agent. You just have to be very, very careful. You have to own the rights to that music. The easiest way is to create it yourself, as Nancy said.
Okay, one more thing about that, and Donna was schooling me on this the other day, is that these music supervisors and producers, they understand music and where people are getting their tracks from. And as much as you can, like, have real instruments in your song as much as you can. Like, we had jingle bells that we wanted, and Donna provided jingle bells. Don't just use it off. Wherever you can, make your own. Don't just use something that's sitting right there in Logic Pro or Pro Tools. Try to make your own, because everyone kind of knows what those basic tracks sound like, and it ends up making them think it's basic. So
and people use MIDI instruments sometimes, and sometimes they sound amazing and they're really good and you played them, and that's totally fine. Sometimes it sounds like keyboard MIDI horns or something, and they'll go, no, sorry, unless they're looking for something cheesy, which is sometimes the brief. It says, we want something that sounds like a Casio keyboard from 19, whatever. And you go, oh, okay, I can do that. I can do that cheesy keyboard sound. But most of the time they want a really high-end, great sound. As Nancy said, it should sound like it should be on the radio. It shouldn't sound cheesy. Now, again, hip hop is a little different because they use all those cheesy, video game sounds sometimes as part of the background. But if you're writing another kind of song, you have to be really careful not to have those MIDI instrument sounds because they'll recognize them. Okay.
Okay, one thing Wesley is asking, are different permissions needed for clearing samples for sync as opposed to for release? And I would say nothing different is needed. I think you need, work for hire if you're having someone create the track for you. And if you are using, like, Bill, you can really speak to this. You've used some tracks before from various services.
I have. You have to buy out those tracks and make sure it's exclusive buyout, and they'll charge you $2,000 sometimes for that service. Sometimes they won't, but sometimes, you can buy an exclusive use of that track so nobody else has it, and then you own the rights to it. And then it's sort of a track for hire, but you got to be very, very careful about that. But yeah, we'll get to the paperwork stuff, which is partly, we're going to talk about getting work for hires.
Donna chimed in, you cannot clear a sample you have. So we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, you really got to be careful of that. Now, I've had sync supervisors or I've had music supervisors and sync agents take a look at the waveform of my song that I submitted and said, I don't want to listen to this one. Like we'll be on a pitch night and they'll have to choose 3 or 4 songs to listen to. They will look at a waveform like the one at the bottom and they'll say, I could be wrong, but I don't think that's going to be great for sync. The one at the top, they'll say, I'll listen to that. And what they do typically is jump around into these waveforms. These are music waveforms. If you have a program that'll show you the waveforms of your song, you'll see something like this. So you see on the top one, there's an intro. I can see the intro because it's smaller than the other waveforms. Then you've got a verse. Then you've got a pre-chorus. Then you got a chorus. Then you've got a lot of stuff over here. It should have more dynamics over here. I just grabbed one at random. Should have more dynamics, but those sometimes when they're in a hurry and they're listening for songs for the project, they'll jump around to these sections to see what that section is. Sometimes they want it to build as the song goes on. See the one at the bottom? It's pretty much the same. It comes in hard and strong and fast, and it stays about that same level through the whole thing. You can tell there's a couple of sections that are probably, choruses or instrumentals or something that goes a little louder, or the voice goes a little louder, but not good for sync. So dynamics is really, really good. We call this syncable sounds, right? You're trying to make syncable sound waves that, again, and there should be even some places here where there's no waveform because there's a stop or it goes so low, like right at the beginning of the track, that it's an easy place for them to cut it off. It's an easy place for them to edit. So if you have the capability, and there are various, all your DAWs will have a waveform thing you can look at like that. There's a view that you can look at it. Check out your sounds before you submit them and make sure the dynamics are there. Usually it starts low, go a little, drop it down again, build, drop it down right near the end, or drop it down and then go up again at the very end. So that's a perfect syncable sound wave.
Just one way to think about it is you do not want a stick of butter. I don't want the stick of butter thing that's going on. I've seen it was like everything. I was just like,
yeah, it just looks
no variation.
Absolutely. I couldn't even find one of those in my catalog. So I found one that was close. That was about it. All right, Nancy, you can do this one. Singers make such a difference in sync.
Oh my God. Okay, I can sing. That doesn't necessarily mean that I should be on every song I write. And, great vocalists distinctive vocalists have a way. It's just like the Voice TV show. There's voices that will move you. When the song can be average, but the voice can move you. So you want to get a voice that matches the angst of whatever it is, the emotion of the song, the angstness, the happiness, and stuff like that. And in general, they do not like duets for putting your songs in TV and film, because then there's various things for them to think about. They kind of like want it all served up on an easy plate, and duets is not easy. So just because we got a male and a female, and who knows, those words of the second verse that the female was singing might have been perfect if the guy would have sang it. So just don't make it complicated for them. Just don't make always.
That's why usually if I think it might be a duet, because occasionally we get briefs for duets, but it's very rare. I have a male version, a female version, and a duet version. And I'm going to have all of those available, because I might get a brief that's, I've written the perfect song and they say female vocal only. I have this great song that would fit perfectly for that. I need a female, and I don't have time because it's due tonight. It's due tomorrow. I'm not probably going to be able to get somebody to re-sing it. And they'll probably have to change keys if it's a female key, different from the male key that we wrote it in, or vice versa. So if you have a song that's great for both, get them both if you can. And if you have people in your team that work with that. The other thing is, quirky vocalists like, Billie Eilish was really unusual when she came out. I didn't know anyone else who sounded like Billie Eilish.
Right.
And she was really successful because nobody sounded like her. Sometimes people have really weird voices, but they work in some weird way. Neil Young, he wouldn't make it on The Voice or America's Got Talent, but he made it as a vocalist, and they use his songs sometimes in Sing things because he's got a really weird voice. Bob Dylan, same thing, got a quirky vocal. So it's not like you have to be the perfect Barbra Streisand or, somebody like that. Beyonce, you could be really a weird vocalist and it could work for that quirky song that you're doing, or that interesting song that you're doing, because you have such a quirky vocal.
It's so true. I mean, like we just did, and in the last Sing Challenge, we had this situation where the male singer, he was an older gentleman, and he, was he going to ever be on the radio? No, but he was the perfect voice for this, for the character in the song. I mean, in the movie, the character in the movie. So, like, have various versions. I know somebody says, oh, if you just had a soul voice like Aretha Franklin, I'm like, oh my God, how many hoops you want us people to jump through? A lot. So make friends with lots of different vocalists.
Well, that's the thing. I have sync teams that I work with, and usually my ideal sync team is an artist. That is someone who is a vocalist and a performer and has the ability to record. That's always good. Someone who's a great producer, and someone who's a really good writer or instrumentalist. And maybe all three of us are writers. But if you can get with an artist who has a distinctive voice and create your own sync team, you'll have a built-in great vocalist, and you'll pay a lot less money depending on what deal you arrange with the artist that you work with.
That's exactly right. I love that. That is so true.
All right.
Oh my God.
So proper paperwork. This is the part, of course, that most of us who are creatives hate and aren't very good at, but this can sink you in sync. I will say this, it can sink your boat in sync if you don't have this stuff covered. You want to go through the first part of this and I'll take the second part? Nancy?
All right. These signed contracts and documents are essential. Okay. Get signed agreements, admin agreements, work for hire forms, split sheets. Okay. So what's a split sheet? Split sheet is between the songwriters. And in our case, mostly we are writing with other independent songwriters. So both Seth, you and Bill and I wrote, we would both sign this agreement that said, hey, this is what percentage each of us owns of this song, and we each have a publishing company of our own. So our publishing company has X amount percentage of the song. So who owns what on that song?
And I'll just add, and so let's say we get Phil Mason, who was on here. I can't see everybody now. He may still be on here, may not. He's a producer and a writer as well, obviously. And he, if we said, we love this song, now we want Phil to work with us and produce a great track. And we say, hey, Phil, we wrote this song. Nancy and I own it 50-50. Would you come in and we'll give you a third of the song? And you can have a third of the rights to the song if you'll give us each a third of the production. Or we could say, we own the song, but we'll buy into your production. We'll pay you $1,000 or $500 for your production, and we'll pitch this together and we can co-own it. You usually charge $1,000. How about if we pay you $500 and we'll each own half of the master? You'll own half, and Nancy and I will split the other half. So Nancy and I get 25% each. Phil will get 50% because he put in a lot of hours doing that production. And we have to have a document that says, here's our agreement. Phil gets 50% of the master. We own 100%. We each own 50% of the writing and the publishing. So that's kind of complicated. You have to make sure you've got that all spelled out, and you better get it clear up front if you start to work with people, because in the end, they won't like it if you change the agreement midstream.
All right. Well, I think we might have jumped ahead a little tiny bit here, Bill, because there are two parts to every song. There's the lyrics and the melody, which is the C copyright, basically, that we register on BMI and ASCAP. And then the other part of the song is what they call the master recording of the song. So there's ownership on both of those two things. And that song split sheet, well, it's not like you can go out there and find song split sheets, but we make up all those song split sheets ourselves so that we can have all the information as clear as a bell for who owns what. And it's best, like maybe you don't have a recording yet, but you just have the song that you wrote. Well, then you're going to put the writers and the publishers. But if you have the recording, you put the writers, the publishers, and then you would also put who owns the master and what portion of the song. Best to have it all there in some place where people signed and said, here's the ownership of the song. You can make this up yourself, or there's also a couple of them out there on Discover Sooner. I think at the bottom of the Sync Challenge, there's a page that will take you to all of the videos on this and also to the forms.
Yeah, the sample forms. And you should always, of course, get somebody legally to look at that stuff. But one of the other ones that we have to have in place for Sync, which is a little different from other kinds of songwriting, is an admin agreement. An admin agreement is who has the right to pitch this song, who has the right to sign an agreement to license the song. Now, if you have a publisher, then, Nancy's a publisher. If I've signed a publishing agreement with Nancy and I'm one of her writers, she's going to have the right to decide who licensed that song. The publisher owns the licensing rights, if you will. And the person who owns the master, which is a little different. But if I'm the artist, I've recorded it, and I'm signed to Nancy, she has the admin right to pitch it and say yes or no to a licensing opportunity. And so I work with non-published writers a lot. In Sync, that's actually an advantage because you can go faster. I work with people that are signed to publishers, and I can't get the song cleared quickly enough usually. And so I just missed one last week, tell you the truth, because I couldn't get it cleared quickly enough to get in the movie. So you get assigned an admin agreement. Who can say yes or no to a licensing agreement? And you get that up front, if you can, with your co-writers and the master owners.
We usually call this our goal is to be a one-stop, make this song a one-stop. And so an admin agreement between the various co-writers on it would be if Bill and I wrote the song, there was no publisher involved, I would give Bill the right to say yes and sign the dotted line on the paperwork. And he would give me the right to sign the paperwork and be the interface between the team of songwriters and the music supervisor.
Because both of us are pitching, and we might have an opportunity where someone says, I need to have an answer on this in the next hour. Nancy's flying on a plane, or Bill's in a writing session and is not looking at his text. It's good to have shared, both of those are one stop, because they can go to either one of us who are listed on the song and say, hey, Nancy, can we license this today? And Nancy can say yes. If Nancy's not available, they can come to me and I can say yes, if we've got that agreement in place. If we don't, I have to get a hold of Nancy and I may lose out on the sync place.
Right. So this admin agreement is a piece of paper that we make up, that and then like we both sign, and Bill says Nancy can place the song and Nancy says Bill can interact, and can sign on the song. So they want, and then if
that discussion up front,
right.
You have that discussion up front, and you have to trust your people that you work with. Don't work with people you don't trust. That's another thing, of course. Work for hire agreements are really important in sync, because sometimes someone will produce the track and then they'll hear it on the television and they go, wait a minute, that's my track. And they'll claim a piece of that song. And then that is a nightmare for music supervisors and for sync agents and libraries. You have to have that stuff worked out. If you've hired someone and you've paid them, they are not an owner of that song if you have a work for hire agreement. Now, that doesn't exist in Canada, which has a weird thing, but they have a similar kind of idea. Whoever creates the song owns it. And we get a work for hire signed agreement when we hire vocalists or producers or instrumentalists to work on our tracks. And if you don't have that, it could trip you up when you go to license your song to a sync opportunity.
Yeah, so there's, as you can see, this is pretty complicated stuff. It's just a bunch of paperwork that shows the facts of who owns the song, who played on the song and is given permission. Like the basic idea here is that music supervisors want all the paperwork together. So that they don't have to worry about it. They don't have, this is what the sync agent does for you, right?
Yeah, that's right. They make sure you have all those
so
documents.
you don't have to do it, right? But we get all of the paperwork together for you. And if you don't have someone like that, then you have to do it, or you just can't get your song placed in TV and film. So we have to learn about this stuff.
And sometimes when I pitch, they want to know that my song is already registered with my PRO. You want to tell them what the PRO is to make sure we're all on the same page, Nancy?
Yeah, so performing rights organization like ASCAP, CSAC, BMI, and at the UK, the RPS. Like, before you send it to the music supervisor, register the song. It might take a couple of weeks for the whole thing to go through. So you write the song and register your song, and hey, Harrison, the answer to which is better to work with, ASCAP or BMI, I saw your full entire question. Hey, they're both really good. And it depends on which ASCAP and which BMI. Like if you're in Nashville, the ASCAP, you get a little more response from them than BMI. But if you're out in LA, the BMI, you get a more ready response from people. You want to work with whoever will talk with you and do this for you. And they're both really good. And
yeah, they're about equal for most people, unless you're a really successful songwriter. I'm in BMI, so it's fine for me. And it's, pretty easy to register and make sure you have your songs in there. So find a way to organize and pitch your songs. I sent a joke, I saw a little thing I sent to some of my co-writers, and I said, Don't worry, I have a spreadsheet for that because I have about 5 spreadsheets that I use to track everything from productions, who I've hired to produce a song. Did I get a work for hire? I have all the metadata in it. I have another one that's a pitch spreadsheet. I have another one that's songs that are signed spreadsheet, so I don't accidentally pitch something, because I have so many songs signed with sync agents and libraries that I can't remember. Some of them are exclusive, some of them are non-exclusive. I've made the mistake, and finally I created a spreadsheet, and I go to it before I pitch a song and say, oops, I can't pitch that one because it's already signed. Somebody else has that, and they have exclusive right to pitch it. So find a way to organize and pitch your songs. And one of the ways I do that is I use an online online cloud service that pitches and stores my songs and the lyrics and all the data, metadata. It's called disco.ac. There's another one called SongSpace. Some of you use SoundCloud, but for sync, Disco is the top one. So that is a way to organize myself. When I get a pitch when I get a brief that says I want an R&B song, I can go into my Disco and type in R&B, because I've meta tagged all my tracks, and I can come up with all my R&B songs, and then I know which ones to possibly pitch. So I keep track of those pitches and the signings and placements with Google Docs and Sheets. That's my easiest way to do it. All we're saying in this part is sync. You can't be loose, fast and loose, like you're just a creative and you're not good with this organization stuff. In sync, it will sink you, as I said, because you will shoot yourself in the foot if you make mistakes enough. I mean, people are, forgiving of simple mistakes, but if you make too many mistakes, they will stop working with you. They just don't trust you anymore, and it'll mess them up.
Right.
All right, vocalese. When I write for sync, I almost always put in, I don't always, but I almost always put in a vocalese section, because you never know. They may love the sound of your track. They may love the melody, but they don't like your words. And so I'll just put in, it might be, instead of writing a lyrical bridge, I'll put a vocalese bridge. I do it, or I'll put a vocalese post-chorus. So it'll be, I just did one today. I just wrote one today, and the chorus ended with a rhyme to O. And so after O, after this O rhyme, which was glow or something like that, it was like, oh, 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 oh. So we just rhymed the last word in the chorus and put a post-chorus vocalese thing in. So it can be doo-doo, la la, oh, ooh, na na na, na 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 na, na na na. Oh, think of the Beatles. Na 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 na. What's the part everybody sings along with that song? Hey Jude, na 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 na. It's easy for everybody to remember because it doesn't have a lot of lyrics. So it's a cool thing to do for sync as well.
Yeah.
All right, metadata. Go for it, Nancy. You start.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay. I want to go back just for 1 second.
Go ahead.
Okay. If you're going to be pitching songs in TV and film, I just think just flat out, you need to get disco.ac, because music supervisors, it has just become the industry standard. And that's what they prefer to use, because they can get links of your song and they can keep track of it where they might not be able to. Certainly no music supervisors I know want more MP3s. They just don't. But there are times when we need to send an MP3, and if you ever send an MP3 anywhere, just make sure you have your name and contact information in there so people can get back with you. That is the minimum that you need, because a lot of times people don't even do that. You can go into Apple Tunes, and in the comment section, put your name and contact information. So make sure you, at a minimum, you have that. Okay, then this maxed out metadata, also called meta tagging. It consists of information, keywords, and images attached to your music file that others can see when you send it. Okay, how important is this image to put in your song? It is extremely important, because if you just send your song without a picture, then other people who put the art in there were more attracted and more likely to get their song heard. So make sure you put some kind of emotive image in your inside your song, right, Bill?
Right. I mean, you can see one right at the right here of the words over here. This is on a Mac. This is when I press Command I, and I'm hovering on, I click on my song, my MP3 or my WAV file or my AIFF. There's a problem with WAV files, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But if I click on my MP3 or my AIFF and I click Command I, it'll show me information on the file. I'll do that with a Word file, it'll do that with a PDF. But in music files, it'll show you the metadata. And one of the things is, you can see I have an image for this song. This is one of my songs, Great Is Worth the Waiting For, that I wrote with Steve Collum and Lucy LeBlanc. And that image really speaks to what's in the song. Then you can see, I mean, I don't know how much you can see of that because it's kind of small, but that is the metadata that came along with my image when I sent it over the internet. Now, if you do a WAV file, if you send it over the internet, the WAV file will not carry your metadata. So if you pitch it via an online service like Disco or SoundSpace, SongSpace, it will carry, because they'll just import it directly into their similar service. But for the most part, never send someone a WAV file, even though that's a high resolution. That's what we're talking about, a master level file, a really high resolution file. Send it as an AIFF or use one of these services that make sure that the metadata clings to it. I just 2 weeks ago, I'm on a pitching service, and they put out a call on that pitching service saying, we have no idea who sent us the song. We can see who wrote it. We have no idea who sent it to us. We have no idea who owns the master and who's the one stop. And we have an hour and a half to go until the brief is closed.
Right.
We want to use this song in the movie. We want to license this song. And the person didn't put their contact information in the metadata.
This is,
And I'm just sitting back waiting. Oh my gosh,
oh my
I've
God.
chosen my song because there's always metadata in my song. You know, it's just crazy. You got all the way to the finish line, and because you didn't put your name tag on, they don't know who you are.
That's right.
So they are listen to the song sometimes a year. Donna, I know, you know, she'll put stuff in a folder saying, I can't use that now, but that's a cool song. About a year later or 6 months later, she'll go back to it and she'll like, who sent me this? Where did I get this song? And if the metadata isn't there, you could be SOL, as they say, because she can't find you anymore. She doesn't remember. She got so many songs. She doesn't remember who sent this to her or when she got it. All right.
Okay, so metadata is a big word for
Yes,
information.
Donna's giving the 2 thumbs up because it's happened, I'll bet. I will
That's
bet
right.
it's happened 100 times.
It happens all the time. It happens every day.
Yeah.
It literally every single day someone is losing out because they didn't put their contact information in there. So okay, so Disco allows you to, you know, it's so easy access, upload the picture that you want to go. And most of us just go right into the comments, and there's a place for the lyrics. You put the lyrics in there. There's a place for comments, and in the comments, we just go and put, you know, that song split sheet where all the songwriters and all of their PRO information, we just copy that and stick that right into the comments.
Right.
So, man, this is, in a way, you're really telling the music supervisor, I know what I'm doing and I know what
Yeah.
you need. So
I'm a
this,
professional and I know about sync and I know about
Right.
pitch. And then 6 months later, a year later, when Donna is looking for something, she says, I need a female vocal pop song. And she can put in her disco female vocal pop song, and up pops your song if you've meta tagged it right. I also have said that when I need a female vocal song, I don't have to go through all my songs. I have over 2,000 tracks on my disco. Some are instrumental, some are vocal only, and some are different mixes. I would have to search through all 2,000 tracks to find something that's right for the pitch. I don't remember all my songs at this point. And I just write a lot and I produce a lot. So I'm looking through 2,000 tracks, over probably 2,500 by now tracks. And I need to put in my metadata and say, female vocal R&B, female vocal pop, male vocal rock, hip hop, rap, whatever I'm going to put in that, it'll pop up my songs. So your metadata is for you, for the music supervisor, for the sync agent, and for sync libraries. All of us can use that.
Here's a good question. Do you give similar images and art to many songs as a part of the album, depending on the mood and the genre?
Yeah. Definitely, if it's part of an album and there's a theme, yeah, definitely. But otherwise, if it's just a one-off song, I find unique art, and I find it on a thing called Unsplash, which is licensed, royalty-free and license-free. They have paid ones too, but most images you find on the internet are not okay to use in your metadata because they're copyrighted and you don't have permission to use them. It's the same thing as samples in music. So go find licensable, free license, or if you want to pay for it, you can pay for it. There are Getty Images and other things that you can use to find images, but you have to pay for them.
So is that unsplash.com?
Yeah, unsplash.com. They have
free images.
I use them all the time for my meta tags for my images. All right, so we're going to go to the next one, which is I got my first sync placement sort of, it was a country song, and I said almost nobody wants to license this country song, so it was an anomaly. But I made a relationship with a sync agent because of that, and every once in a while they would send me briefs, and I started to notice that there were very likely asks in briefs. Now there's always the exceptions to the rule, but I found 12 categories, and over the pandemic I put together several sync teams, and we wrote 5 or 10 songs in each of these lanes. So the first one is swagger, which is like we will rock you. I mean, it's those sports songs, and but a subcategory that is female empowerment. I am woman, I am strong, that kind of stuff. Or you're gonna hear me roar, it's that kind of stuff, or female empowerment in some other way. Pure fun, bouncy, happy, it's like, don't worry, be happy. That kind of stuff. Any Jack Johnson is going to be in that category. A lot of Jimmy Buffett was fun. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, wasting away again in Margaritaville. Positive and encouragement songs. Sexy and seductive songs like Fever, You Give Me Fever. That was the classic one. So a lot of songs are in that. They're very seductive, sexy kind of things. Christmas songs, perennially popular. You can do them in movies, TV shows, commercials, any holiday, it could be Easter, Thanksgiving, or, Halloween, or one of those, but, 4th of July, that kind of stuff. PD means public domain. There are some Christmas songs that you don't have to, you don't have to write your own original ones. You can use ones that already exist, but you don't have to share the profits, and you can make your own version of it. There are websites you can go and say, what's Christmas songs are public domain? Make your own version. Make a reggae version of White Christmas, whatever it may be. I don't know if White Christmas is public domain, so don't quote me on that. You'd have to go look. Love and romantic songs, obviously popular on things like Love Island and, 90 Day Fiance and stuff like that. Dark, dramatic, cinematic. Again, think of those dark songs that we hear on a lot of those shows. Quirky, novelty songs. Acoustic singer-songwriter stuff. That's, you hear that on Grey's Anatomy and all those, This Is Us and all those kind of things, and sometimes in movies. Hip hop and rap, especially clean. I mean, hip hop and rap is really great, but sometimes for a commercial or for TV show or a movie where it's mainstream, they cannot have swearing or misogynistic lyrics or, drug lyrics or anything like that. So if you can make clean hip hop and rap, that's really cool. Cover songs that are so different from the original. Now that's a little more challenging because you cannot be a one-stop for a cover song because somebody else wrote it. But sometimes there's briefs that say, we want a cover song of, I'm a Believer by the Monkees, Neil Diamond song by the Monkees. And, but we want a totally different version of it. Now, if they're asking for it, they're willing to clear it. But otherwise, you cannot be the one stop for that. You're just easy clear for the master if you make a cool version.
And that's obviously, they understand that. They can,
Yeah.
if they're
If
asking
they're
for that
asking
song,
for it, they are prepared to approach the publisher who has the rights to that song and negotiate the rights, or they've already cleared it with the publisher, which is hard to do, but you might do it. Retro, authentic. If you've been a songwriter for a long time and you own your masters, like you were an artist back in the 70s or in the 80s or the 90s or the 50s or 60s, I think some of you
40s.
40s, yeah, you'd probably be
You are in demand.
oh yeah. Those original recordings, if they're master level recordings, are really in demand, but sometimes they want something that sounds like that. They say, we want something that sounds like it was written in the 60s for Motown. We want something that sounds like punk from the early 90s. And, or grunge from the early 90s or something like that, British grime or something. They'll want something that's throwback. And they either want the original recordings or something that sounds really authentic. So those are the 12 lanes that I started to write a bunch of songs, and I have probably at least 20 or 30 songs in each of those categories ready for that brief that comes in and says, we need this in 2 hours. So if you want to work on something, go work on that.
And Lori, no, that list is not in any kind of order.
No.
Although if you were going to put a category on top, right?
Christmas songs.
Christmas songs, okay, and public
Christmas
domain.
songs.
Jingle bells, jingle bells.
Yeah. Christmas songs, your own originals or public domain, those are going to be your best. And for your own take on that, your own great, unique take. If you have a really different way of doing it, they want it, they want it. They want a hard rock version of, rocking around the Christmas tree, but with, metal guitars and stuff. That'd be cool. And
sad girl version of Jingle Bells.
Absolutely. Anything that's totally different, but cool. It's really unexpected. Okay. So here's some jargon, and then we'll end this pretty quickly and maybe take a few questions. Songs can be signed or placed. Sometimes I go on Facebook and I go, I just got 5 songs signed. And people go, wow, you must be making a lot of money. No, I got a song signed. Placed is they pay me, typically they're going to pay me money. So songs can be signed to a sync library. They can be signed to a sync agent. And that means they sign a contract that says, if we place this song and money comes in, we're going to give you part of it. And there's different contracts for that. It's often 50%, just like a publisher. But sometimes it's a different amount. Sometimes it's 20%, 30%, sometimes 70%, whatever. And you can have a signed song signed exclusively. That is, you can't let anybody else pitch that. You've given that person the exclusive right to pitch that song, or non-exclusively. That is, you can pitch it. Other sync agents can pitch it. Other libraries can pitch it. There's benefits to both, but I just wanted you to know that jargon. Place.
Okay, I know this question is coming, so I'm going to just interrupt you first for 1 minute. Which is better, exclusive or non-exclusive? Okay, Treat them both as exclusive. Just realize that you have all kinds of autonomy. If someone is really liking a song and they want to sign it exclusively, well, go write another song that's close to that. And so you have another one available.
Yeah.
Or even take that song and modify it in some kind of way so that you have it available for someone else who wants it. I can guarantee you if someone wants this song, and then someone else is going to want it too. There's
And
just
not
some,
exclusively get you in trouble sometimes because if you sign with two different places and they both pitch it to the same thing, they'll just talk them down to the lowest price, and they'll sometimes get upset because they don't know who to go with then. So
Right.
I sign exclusive contracts, but we'll talk about this in a minute.
okay.
So if it's placed, that means typically you're going to get a fee for that. And that means it's placed in the movie or the TV show or the commercial or the podcast. It's a podcast theme. That's different from just being signed. With being signed is pretty good because somebody's interested enough in your song and they think it's good enough. They think they can place it, but placed is different from signing. The length of the contract was really important to me. And when I was first in Sync, that place that got me my first placement, $1,000 placement in an MTV show, they had another song. It was a cover song of mine. It wasn't my song, but I did a cover, and it was a really cool cover. And they signed it for 5 years exclusively. And man, did I kick myself. I don't want to sign a 5-year exclusive. I'll sign a 1-year exclusive, maybe a 2-year. But I want it back. If they haven't done anything in a couple of years, I'll give them some time to work it. And if they think they're on the verge of something and they say, will you sign it for another year? We've got something going. I'll go, sure. But as Nancy said, I'll probably just go write another one. But length of contract will be in the Sync terms, and the Sync contract you sign. Reversion terms. Does it ever come back to you if they say in perpetuity? I'm a little wary of that. That's forever.
Yeah. Totally weird. No.
I'm a little wary of that. One stop, as Nancy said, one place, a publisher, or one person can say yes or no to the licensing offer. And they love that in Sync because they're moving fast. 2 hours, we have to get this song cleared, as Nancy called it. That means everybody has to sign off on it. We know we can use it. It's legal to use it. And the person has agreed, or the people have agreed, who own the song, who've written the song and who own the masters, they've agreed. That's a one-stop agreement. That's the gold standard in Sync. A cover song, we already talked about that. Somebody else wrote it, but you do your own version. Authentic means usually it was done at that era. We want an authentic 50s jazz song. That means it was recorded in the 50s, not one that sounds like that. That's retro song. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's just a very, very interesting word, authentic.
I know,
really
it's a little confusing. It's
1950.
very confusing. Very confusing. It means antique, really, is what it means. Public domain, we already talked about that. Somebody has written it, but it's gone out of copyright because there's been enough years. And there are complex copyright laws all over the world. So look it up and make sure it's really in the public domain. Some songs from the 20s are in the public domain and some songs aren't because things changed in terms of copyright law. Disney actually changed it all. But work for hire, we already talked about that in splits. We already talked about these are the jargon words. If you don't know these things, you should get to know them. One more point and then we'll kind of finish up. And that is, we've talked about this before, but it could cost you a lot of money to get master recordings unless you're a producer. If you're a filmmaker who knows how to create high-level productions, great. You can do Sync if you know how to write as well. But even those people, they're spending so much time on production, they want to find other people who are going to sing the songs, who will help them write the songs, or who will write the songs. Find collaborative partners. It's going to be much easier. It takes a village to get a Sync placement, is what I'll say.
It really does.
And,
And
it's
expensive, just like you said.
it
It's
can be
extremely
expensive unless you work with people and you have an agreement. I have agreements with several of my Sync teams that are 3 people, a producer, a vocalist, and we're all writers, and I usually pitch. And so we're collaborative partners, and we're all for one for all. Whoever writes most of the song, we share it equally. Whoever produces most of the song, we share it equally. Whoever gets the placement, we share it equally. So find collaborative partners and people who are hard workers and keep their word and build a catalog song for future pitches, because you won't have time to write for some of the pitches once you get serious about sync. It will literally be, we need this song in 2 hours. Now, sometimes you'll have a week, sometimes you'll have 3 weeks, but it's very, very rare that you have a lot of time for live briefs. It seems to me in TV and movies, TV especially, they want it yesterday. They are always super busy and they're always last minute. And they want something that's easy to do, that fits the brief, and that they can clear really easily. So have your songs ready. Don't wait until you get the brief to write the song. Here's a couple of resources that you can listen to songs that have been placed in TV shows and movies and ads. Ads are really very, lucrative if you get the right ad. And so go listen to the ones that are working, and you'll hear examples of what we've talked about. And I think we should take a few questions. We've gone a little over our hour, but I want to thank you for taking your time and attention to attend or watch this webinar on the replay, and for spreading the word about it. And to Nancy, who, we're friends and collaborators from way back musically and business-wise and all that stuff. And we really got excited about wanting to share this with you and giving it away. Nancy does a lot of this stuff with Discover Sooner. Go to Discover Sooner. If you're not involved in Discover Sooner, you're missing out on a lot of this cool stuff, because this is only one of the hundreds of things she does during the year. And to all the people who helped us learn about songwriting and sync, including Donna, who's on here, and Phil, who's on here, who helped me learn early on, and including the people who rejected our pitches and those who signed and placed our songs.
That's exactly right.
Donna's been a great mentor to us, and she knows a lot, and she's been willing to share it. And go check out Donna too and connect with her. She's got cool stuff going. And to Discover Sooner and Nashville Cool, Nancy's, songwriting advocacy and publishing entities for sponsoring and organizing this webinar. So Nancy, some last words and then some questions and comments.
Okay. If you want to get to Donna's company, you can go to discoversooner.com and go to the Sooner Sync Challenge, which is right up there. And you can get to Donna's site from the Sync Challenge page. We do hope, and we really time this because to be near the next application period for the next Sync Challenge, because we know a lot of people are really interested in getting their feet wet, and that's what you do in the Sync Challenge. We put you in a team, and we got a producers for you, and then we give you all kind of advice as you're writing your song. And we've been getting a lot of songs, I would say, placed it's sort of like signed. The movie's producer is the best the best person to tell us if she feels that this song is going to work for the movie. And so we have a lot of positive feedback from her. She took every single song from the last writing session that we had. So it's really worth the time. So I hope you check it out. And let's see. So I have a couple of questions here, Bill, and I'm just going to read them out. And this is, let's see.
I see a few of them here.
Okay, go ahead.
Answer one really quickly. Johnny Matt, is there a website for public domain? There are websites for public domain Christmas songs, but Google is your friend. What songs are in the public domain? Just type that in and you'll find a bunch of songs, but it's more specific for Christmas. What Christmas songs are in the public domain? And I would go to 2 or 3 sites, because some of them, it's like the old joke, as Abraham Lincoln said, don't trust don't trust everything you read on the internet.
So like is Fever by a song in the public domain, and it'll come up. But I guess you could probably check on the PROs, right, on BMI or ASCAP.
The internet will generally give you the question. Like you said, if you're thinking of a specific song, it has to be probably 70 to 100 years old. So most songs are not in the public domain. Most songs that have been written aren't in the public domain. So, but Christmas songs, that's where I usually go because I'm going to do Christmas covers and I want to find ones I don't have to clear, because some of them you'll think, oh, that song's been around for 150 years, and you'll find, no, it was written in 1954 and it's still in copyright. Somebody wrote that song, and so I wouldn't count on that it being public domain.
Right.
Someone said, how do you contact music supervisors? You usually don't. That's why you get a sync agent, and you usually have to pay to play. It's just like publishers. You have to sign with those people, and sometimes you have to pay to get access to those people by going to pitch sessions that usually cost money, not always. Sometimes Nancy does some free ones, but most of them you're going to have to pay to get access. And then you develop relationships with those sync agents and with the music supervisors. And then once they develop a trusting relationship, they know you've got the goods, that you can do the songs that are in the realm of possibility, and that you're a kind or nice person. I've had pay to play people that now I go out to breakfast with when I go to Nashville, and I can send them a song without paying them. So it's like any other business. It's relationships, and you usually have to, find a way in. Almost no music supervisor wants to get a song from you because they're overwhelmed and they have way too many songs to deal with already. So it's rare you can find direct access. That's why you have a sync agent or some program like Nancy's, which gets you connected with the sync supervisor.
Well, I would like to say that I have been in shock from a time again. We tend to put the music supervisor up there like the grand poobah of all decision makers. But honestly, what a music supervisor is the curator.
Yeah.
And then the person who's in charge of the music, like the music editor or the movie's producer, is going to make these decisions. So this music supervisor is right there on that teetering edge, and you can meet music supervisors at there's places like events called Durango or the Taxi Road Rally and various things like that. And we discovered Suter has things like that. And
yeah,
so
Nancy and I met some supervisors at Durango when we were there, and they gave us their email addresses. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty rare.
yeah, and you can count on half of them not paying any attention
Half
to
of them
you.
not responding to your emails when you
Right.
do it. Yeah. And taxi people are there directly. Consuelo says the director chooses. Not really. Sometimes the director chooses. Sometimes it's a showrunner. Sometimes it's the son of the person who's financing the movie. It's different. But as Nancy said, the music supervisor is a curator who brings them typically the choices. Yeah, well, that's true a lot of times. It's just not always true. And the music supervisor will bring them choices, as Nancy said, curate and say, I think these 5 songs would be good for this scene. I think these 3 songs would be good for this scene. I think these 10 songs would be good, or this one song would be good for that. And they're all cleared, or we think we can clear them. And then sometimes someone steps in and says, nope, we're not going to use any of those songs. My financier, the person who financed this movie, has a son who's a rock star, and we're putting his song in this thing.
It happens all the time.
All the time. So it's not always the director. It's the showrunner in TV. Sometimes it's the director or the producer of that particular thing. And so, it's different. There are a lot of decision makers, but that music supervisor is a key person because they're the ones who are pretty savvy about music. They know where to find it. They know how to solicit it. Other people send them, and they solicit from other people. They know where to go, and they usually have discerning ears and have a really good sense of what will work in a scene. And so most of the time, their recommendations sway whoever is the final decision maker.
Okay, and how much do syncs pay? Okay, we're going to talk about the top of the food chain. Advertising pays the most. That's where you get those $25, $50, $100,000 placements for like big, massive pop songs, but they might like your song, right? So ads seem to pay the most, right?
It can be anywhere from 100 to you
Right.
know, if you're the Rolling Stones, millions of dollars. I was listening to Bono's memoir. He just called Surrender. I've been listening to it for 18 hours. It's 22 hours long. It's crazy. I'm listening to it on audio. And he said they were offered 25 million to use one of their songs, and they turned it
Oh
down
my God.
for an ad. And they had principles, and they didn't weren't going to license it. And,
Back in the day.
he said maybe we should have, you know, he's thinking back. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money for a really well-known song. I think it was called, you know, the one One Love, One Heart. And
Honest to
they believed that song was really spiritual and didn't want to license it to the people who wanted to license it, which was for a car ad or something like that. And I mean, so it can go up there, but you won't get that unless you're Sting or, you know, whatever. Sting got a lot of money for the Jaguar commercial that he did, you know, and so, but most of us are going to get 100 to 5,000 when we're starting out. Maybe I'm up for a $10,000 podcast theme right now. I was up for a 5,400. It was 5,000 euros, so $5,400 US advertisement in Europe. So I mean, that's about my level at this point. But yeah, you could hit it big. I swing for $25,000, $30,000 briefs all the time, but there's a lot of competition for that, and you have to be right on the dot for what they want, and your production has to be amazing. The song has to be amazing.
All right. Anybody got a question? Unmute and ask.
Yeah, are these up front and then you give up royalties? No, these are up front, and then depending on the deal, sometimes they buy you out. They buy the whole track and you can never use it again, but that's rare. Usually they license it, and just like an artist might license your song and record it. This is a licensing fee. So of that $1,000 for my first placement, I got 500 because the sync agent took 500. And then I got back end royalties. I just got one on a Fox TV show called Call Me Kat, and it was the fee I got was $1,250. I shared it with my 3 co-writers and master owners, my 2 others. So we each got $1,250, and then I got back end. I haven't gotten much yet. I've gotten like $100, but I've already gotten 2 back ends from my PRO. When they play it, I make money from being a writer and my own publisher on it. But the sync fee was for the master use, was for the recording. And they pay that right up front. Sometimes takes 3 weeks to come in, sometimes takes 9 months to come in. Just depends. But that's an upfront fee. And then hopefully you'll make money when it's played again and again. If it's the theme song, you're in like Flynn because you make money each time it's played.
Okay, back end means, okay, then you get money on the back end from your PRO every time it's on TV or it's played. I don't know how they tell it, right? So that's what we mean on
Those
the back end.
performance royalties, and that's what your BMI or ASCAP or PRS or SOCAN or, you know, all those PROs. What's the one in AMRA is the one I think in Australia. Those are the ones who collect those performance. When your song is performed live out there on the radio, they should collect those monies for you. That's why you register it. And also you may want to, if it's part of the contract and it's okay, you may want to release that song right when it gets placed, because ours was on Call Me Kat, and we released the song through DistroKid and put it out on YouTube and Apple Music and Spotify. And some people will Shazam it and go listen to the song.
So I saw somebody ask this question, and I'm just going to paraphrase it, that look, I sent a song in, they said they were going to sign it, and then I didn't hear anything from anybody, from this person. What do I do?
Well,
and I think the answer is, in about 3 weeks, reach out to them and go again and say, hey, where you guys at? Just give them a little nudge, just nudging you to remind that you said you were going to sign this song. And I can tell you, I'm extremely busy, and I'm sure other people are also extremely busy. And we really appreciate it when people reach out and say, hey, don't forget you said you were going to do X, but do not be a pest, which is every other day, send somebody something and keep asking for an answer. If they don't give you an answer, learn how to take a hint. But give people, you know what I say. So don't ask them every day.
All right,
If they're
So
just saying if they're just saying they're looking at a song, they'll look at the song as happened last time. You send it in, I'll look at it because I don't know how to use
yeah,
it.
without giving
Do I
it,
wait?
that's nothing. That's, I mean, that's doesn't want, if they want to sign it and you put your metadata in,
No,
they will contact you. They will
I
contact.
just wait. But can I send it to someone else?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They don't have any claim on it. Definitely. Yeah. Harrison, you had your hand up. You want to just unmute? Yeah.
Hey, yeah, so it's just a quick one. It's say with yourself, Nancy, when reaching out to sync agents, what is kind of the golden number of songs that is not too many that you would listen to, but not
I would say the golden number is one.
just one song.
I sincerely mean that. Send one song. Send
Okay.
your very best produced song. Or if you have, that's right, Donna. If you know that sync agent is looking for something, uh, then say, hey, I saw you were looking for X, and this is a song that I have that could be like that. Like, I'm talking one sentence, Harrison. Just do not go on for a paragraph because,
I've been writing songs since I was 23, and I write in this one and this one, and they're like, glaze over. But if
oh my
I had
God.
a conversation with them, they've said, and you say, wow, I do lots of retro R&B, and they go, that's what I need for my
That's
thing.
what I need. That's right.
Then maybe 3 songs.
Okay.
If you've had a conversation, it's not a cold approach. Yeah, I would put maybe 3 to give if you've had a specific conversation on what they want.
I do lots of pop songs like Ariana Grande. Boom, you're going to have that person's interest and send them one. Okay, I do lots of songs like Coldplay. Boom, you're going to have somebody interested in that. That's all you have to say.
They give them like a reference, your
Yeah.
best song
It's
in that
sort of in this
reference.
realm, and here's an example of, obviously, if you want to hear more, I'm here. Contact me. Here's my contact info.
Cool. All right, thanks, guys.
That's great. And are you in the UK? You're staying up late too?
Luckily, I'm actually visiting my brother in Canada today.
Ah,
so-
there you go. You're in you're in a better time zone, but yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
Alright.
from the UK originally. Yeah.
All right.
I do lots of songs like Chris Stapleton. Boom. Okay, thank you. Here's one. Okay,
Here's one.
make it simple.
Again,
Here's one.
like we heard the question earlier, if they want your stuff, they will not be shy. They'll reach
Right.
out to you if they have your contact information. So, you don't want to be shy and never put yourself out there in the world, but you don't, as Nancy said, want to be a pest or overwhelm them. If they hear one and they go, holy moly, I got to get in touch with this person because I think I'd like to hear more, they will get in touch with you if they want to hear more. Guaranteed. All right. Were there any questions we missed because there were a bunch that went by? And
Mark.
Just one real quick one, and I apologize. All this time in the music business, the word metadata just blew me away today. Is there somebody you can point that I can go and read up on metadata and how to do it?
I'll tell you, at the bottom of the Sync Challenge, there's a thing that says, hey, there's lots of video. It's a very last part of the page. We did a whole video like this on metadata. I mean, ad nauseum metadata with examples. So there's a whole bunch of videos, and this is going to be a part of that group. And so just go to the bottom of Sync Challenge.
I have become
It's in the right place.
I have become a metadata maven since I got into Sync. I had a little when I did country because people will search for your metadata in country and you have to make sure your contact is in there. But in Sync, it's so crucial if you're going for general Sync, if you're submitting to libraries and sync agents, really, really important to get it. And I learned such subtleties of it. You know, I work with Canadian people in my sync teams. I have 2 Canadian people in 2 different sync teams. And I put in my metadata Canadian based because I don't know, those of you who are in Canada or, you know, who know anything about it, because Canada was overwhelmed with US music, they made a law saying it has to have a certain Canadian TV and radio has to have a certain percentage Canadian content. So somebody may go, I really love this song. Is there a Canadian involved? That's how I started my first sync team, because I and another guy had written a song and we weren't Canadians. And this guy said, this song is perfect for this $75,000 Canada telecom commercial, but we have to have a Canadian artist on the song or writer on the song or producer on the song. We reached out to a friend of ours, Chris Ising, and said, hey, Chris, you want a third of our song? And he says, what? We need a Canadian and you fit. And he's like, sure. And then we started our Lennon McCartney sync team because we just share and share alike. He gets a third, I get a third, and our other writer gets a third, Mark Dolan gets a third. And we did it, and we didn't make the brief, but we could have because we had Canadian content. So now I put Canadian content or Canadian-based writer in all of my metadata. I put pre-release if it's not released yet, because sometimes sync agents and music supervisors want something. They want to be the one who discovers it and introduces it to the world. Who knows? So I have learned the subtle art of metadata. And the other thing is, don't put sounds like Stevie Wonder or sounds like Michael Jackson. You can get sued, and a lot of people have been sued when they put sounds like Marvin Gaye. Do not put that in your metadata. If you say, for people who like Motown, for people who like R&B, for people who like punk rock, if you listen to, you know, so-and-so, you'll like this song, you'll like, you know. Yeah, female
I
producer,
just want to say,
BIPOC. BIPOC is Black, Indigenous people of color, Asian, Asian American, Pacific, AAPI, there's LGBTQ, you know, female producer, anything that can give you a demographic that will make your song stand out and that somebody might want to be giving an opportunity to people that have been marginalized, that's great.
that's
With
right.
that,
Music supervisors and movie people who are in charge really want to help people who have not had a chance. So I just want to say that I am Bill O'Hanlon's song plugger. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, when I get a brief, I know by 9 o'clock, I can have something, because his entire catalog of 2,000 songs is metadata. He's already put it's pop, it's, you know, in the style, you know, like, and it's, I'm looking for something like, you know, Kelly Clarkson and whatever. I know he's
I
going
do
to
my
send me something.
pitching first thing in the morning. I get up I'm an early riser these days, like 6:30 my time, which is a little later Nancy's time, and I'll pitch 5 or 6 songs every morning.
It's all right. I mean, he can get it to me in a heartbeat because he's done it takes time and effort this song is cinematic, right? I have a cinematic or 2 songs, but just in a second in disco AC, I could find all my cinematic songs that have that orchestration behind it. And I don't know how you keep track of it. If you have anything over 300 songs, how
Yeah.
can you really keep track
I
of
don't
it?
remember some of the songs I've written, and then one of my sync team members will remind me, or I'll go into Disco and I'll go, oh yeah, that's right, I had that song. That's great. But yeah, I think we kept people long enough. We've gone over a little over.
No.
And we will have a recording of this. Nancy and I both recorded this, so there'll be a replay. We know we covered a lot of material, but actually you will get the slides, the PDF of the slides. So you'll be able to go over the main stuff that was on the screen. And feel free to, you know, go over this again when Nancy sends out the link to the replay as well.
And, you know, I'll be sending you an email. You can email me, and we'll try to get your whatever you need. We'll try to help you have. So thank you so much for your time. Thank
Thanks,
you, everyone.
Nancy. Thanks everybody who's been on.
Well,
Thanks to people who are
Don.
watching the replay. See ya.
Okay.
Good to see you, Bill. Good to see you, buddy.
Thanks, Jack. Good to see you.
All righty, bye.
Thanks, Donna. Oh, Donna, thanks for being
Donna.
great.
Okay, hold on a second, wait a second. I got a picture.
I'm gonna stop my recording.
All righty, bye, guys. I'm out of here. We're out of here. End.